Another way of resolving conflict would be through negotiation. But different from conflict, negotiation requires the involvement and the participation of both parties. And in looking at negotiations approach, most of, it can be done just between the parties. Negotiation can be actually executed with the participation of both parties. Nonetheless, recently there is an increase of use of a third party in a negotiation so that the interests of both parties can be actually looked at in a much more effective and objective manner. These are the three ways of how third-party intervention is used in a negotiation, and the use of each of these method depends on the extent of a decision control that is required at the end of the discussion. And the three intervention or approaches different in terms of the level of control of its processes and also the control of the decision. For instance, mediation. Mediation is used popularly in Malaysia when dealing with issues of labor grievances. But mediation does not have high level of execution or control over the decision that came out at the end of a mediation. And the mediator of a mediation doesn't need to have an authoritative position in the law. The role of the mediator is not to actually be sides or take sides of any of the party, but more of helping both parties to come to a certain level of agreement. Different from an arbitration, usually arbitration is done by an appointed arbitrator, and this arbitrator usually have the expertise in legal matters or in any area that is where parties are in conflict of. For instance, if they are in conflict of tax matters, so the arbitrator that is appointed usually have an expertise or good knowledge of tax management. Or if the company is facing a bankruptcy position, then the arbitrator appointed by a bank to solve the problem faced by both any of the parties will have knowledge in managing financial issue according to the legal requirement. However, in arbitration, both parties have less control over the process of arbitration. But then the implementation of the decision after arbitration is very high in terms of compliance. Finally, Inquisition. Inquisition requires a lot of analytical and assessment by both parties over the conflict, and because of a lot of assessment being considered by both parties, the decision that arise from this process are usually much more agreed by both parties, and therefore it is thought that the decision is highly controlled in its implementation.